Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Arieta and Sera. As you can see, I'm missing my counterpart, but I'm joined today by Lukhan from the Queensland Reds. Well, the reason why we want to talk to you is I recently read your article on Player's Voice, and that's how you and I connected initially. But before we delve into that, I feel like mental health is something that needs a light shone upon it more often because, yourself as a male in sport, and males in general in the Pacific Island community, not often do we speak about mental health. So I think, given your profile, given the man you are today, what does mental health mean to you?
It's something that should be looked at as a genuine sickness. I think a lot of people suffer from it, and a lot of people probably don't actually know that they suffer from mental health. So I think it's a real problem in today's society and all the issues that it presents today. I think it kind of goes without saying that as people, we should be more polite to each other or think about things before we say them, and just as people, if people are nice and kind to one another, we can, step by step kind of eliminate the mental health with some people. So for me, it's something that's serious and something that I think about every day, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly.
You just mentioned there, sometimes people don't even know that they're suffering with a mental illness. I recently read an article that said that often immigrant communities or minority communities grow up knowing what happy and what sad looks like, and I think this is so real for the Pacific Island community. You know what happy looks like, you know what sad looks like, but you don't know what that grey area in between is because we don't necessarily have the language for it. Someone's going through mental illness but they just don't know. What do you feel that we could do as people that have had our fair share of mental illness to get alongside them and help them?
People who don't suffer it and outside looking in should take it upon themselves to make it known to those people, or even if you're close to someone, just to let them know that you are there for them. To reiterate that you can always be an ear or be a voice for someone to come to and talk and open up to. So like you said, it's real black and white with happiness and sadness, but that grey area in between is something that kind of gets overshadowed or we don't really understand. So I think the more we talk to each other, or the more that people who do suffer, if they can find that strength to open up and make it known in a way to people who probably don't see it every day, and vice versa, I think we can kind of eliminate that greyness and help each other, help one another to become more healthier, mentally.
I think you highlighted a really important point. You said that the onus is on others who are from the outside looking in to ask people if they're okay and if they are kind of struggling. Because again, I've had some conversations around this with some really close friends, and they said that it's up to us to be able to recognize different behaviors in our friends and our families. If you know your family and your friends real intimately, you know when they're having a bad day because there's a switch up in their mood. And if that mood seems to be carrying on for a bit too long, then you're hang on a second, something's wrong here. And I think it's merely not enough just to hey, are you okay? I think you have to make it a mission to actually see how true their statement is, whether they're saying no, if they say, yeah, I'm okay, but you're hang on, you've been down for 2 weeks and you just haven't come out of this. And I think it's our responsibility to keep checking on that person. Because while we have initiatives, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have amazing initiatives like Are You OK Day, and all these amazing community groups that are doing things to raise awareness. I think it's also really important who speaks about mental health, because it doesn't help when the person that's telling the message doesn't look like that. But I think if anything, it's a call to action for someone like yourself and myself, or anyone that's willing to do so, to stand up and speak about it more openly. Because I think once you do that, you create this ripple effect where, and I think for you especially, as a Pacific Islander man standing up and being yo, this thing is real, it'll have this ripple effect where more men will be oh, it's okay for me to say that I'm kind of struggling too. Is that cool? So we know that you recently lost a parent, and that without a doubt would have had a massive impact on your life. How did this impact you in general, and how did that impact extend into your career on the footy field?
It's something that's pretty hard to describe. I know for myself, I'm pretty strong-minded, but like I said to a few of my friends and family, that no matter how strong you are, going through something as painful as this, it will get the better of you. Facing the fact of this is what life is now, and this is the reality, and this is something that I have to wake up to not only me, my family, something we face every day, and it's something that we have to get used to. But in saying that, I did struggle. I struggled to speak up and kind of speak to anyone. Like I said previously, finding that person that you can speak to and kind of getting in touch and open yourself up and explain how you feel and what you're feeling and what you're going through. I had that person, and that person was my eldest cousin. His name's Henry, and since a little kid, he's always kind of been there for. He's the eldest of us 18 cousins, so he's kind of made sure that he's always been there, and that was someone I could fall back on in that time, and I still do every day. I rely on him heavily, so it's important to have that person there.
I know that all took place while you were playing with the Wallabies at the time, and you still chose to take the field that weekend. That would have been a massive moment.
I chose to play, and that wasn't out of wanting to represent the Wallabies or represent my country or something. That was that was just to purely honour my dad, and he is the most rugby fanatic person I know, and I think it's important that I highlight that not only I took the field that weekend, the night after I played, so on the Sunday, my little brother had his grand final, so he played as well. So for me, I found that for my family, it was stronger that he played. It was both strong and happy that we both played, but to see my little brother kind of say, I want to play as well, was something that kind of cheered me up, and I was just like, this is for dad, and just to honour him.
For someone, I guess, who's watching on at the moment, that's probably like, I'm kind of going through that, where I'm like, they either have some sort of leadership role, or they're the head of their family and they're struggling, but they're trying to make everyone happy. Like, what advice would you give to them about putting themselves first?
The way I've been raised was, you look after your sisters and your mum first, and they can cause problems with yourself mentally later, because you kind of, brushing what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and you don't really think about it too much, but it does catch up with you. And that's something that I am finding out. It is catching up with me, but I've always been, taught and raised by my dad that you put everyone else first, and that's the type of person he was. So it was kind of hard, and it is hard. You will struggle with it because I was finding that, I'll make sure I was just checking up on my mum, my siblings every day, and then when you do get that alone time, it does eat you up. Yeah. And as tight as me and as tight as you and your family will be, and you're with them every day, you actually don't know what goes behind closed doors. I'd rather, and this is for me speaking from my point of view, I'd rather it catch up with me and I be affected by the problems than my mum or my siblings or my younger brother, because the way I was raised and in my family, it was like, if you're the man of the household, you're the eldest, you put everyone else first. But I do kind of contradict myself by saying that in the Polynesian community, and times are changing, so I don't know what it was like back in the day, but that is what stirs mental health, by putting yourself last, and you see it every day, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that can contribute to you going through depression and battling mental health issues, because you're so focused on putting everyone else first that you almost tend to forget about yourself. And I kind of went through that stage where I was like, who's there for me? And my cousin, he's there for me every day and stuff, but he lives in Sydney, so that's that grey area that we were saying, and it's hard to explain. I'll be lying to sit here and say that I haven't been going through it, or I'm strong enough to get through it, because as much as I like to think I'm so mentally strong, I'm affected by it, and thank God I'm not affected by it at its worst. It's something that I can recognise, and a lot of people can.
You highlighted in your Players Voice article that when everything was going on, you felt frozen.
Yeah.
And you described yourself as someone, and you've just said here's someone that's quite headstrong and can. You've always thought of yourself as someone that can take anything on, given the upbringing that you've had.
Yeah.
As a man who recognises himself like that, and then having something happen where it's caused you to be probably more vulnerable than you've ever been in your entire life. What did that period of time in your life teach you? about like one, being headstrong, but then two, like having to be vulnerable to be able to feel and to be able to grieve.
When I said being frozen, it was kind of like searching for answers. I had a lot going on then, and my family we had just lost the man of the house, so I had to step into that role. And so there was a lot of thinking going on in my head. Was like how am I going to do this? Like, what do I do now? I've never been through this before. I've got my siblings. I've got a lot of family coming over. I've got a lot of people coming to me, asking me questions, and I'm like, I'm still trying to grieve myself. And that's something I'm like, man, I had to put my grieving stage to the side, which I'm developing and going through now, and kind of push to the side. But it's like coming back. I'm trying to offload it, but it's catching up, and I'm trying to deal with this, trying to deal with that, answer to this person, think of what we're going to do here, what we're going to do there, while also looking after my family. I've got my 2 dogs at home, like just everything's just going on, and I'm just like, there was a time where I just sat down and I'm just like what do I do? I'm struggling. I need that help. It's a process, and I think that's something that that's important to remember, is that there's always a process in things, and you're not going to get things right, or things aren't going to be perfect. Life's a process. There's going to go through ups and downs, and there's going to be obstacles. But I think probably not something I learned about myself, and something I kind of took from it was not trying to take on everything headfirst by myself. There's a reason why we have family. There's a reason why we have close friends. So I think relying on those people, and people such as my mum, my siblings, my little brother especially, and my cousin Henry, kind of helped me get out of that headspace.
And that's like in your Plays Voice article, you mentioned the things that helped you through that period of time. So one massive foundational factor for you was your family. You did mention your cousin Henry too. And you also mentioned God as well. And I know that you're a believer. Do you feel like that time in your life, do you feel like that strengthened or deepened your relationship with God, or did it make you feel distant because you just felt so many whys?
I'm not going to sit and say, God got me through every single day, and I woke up with a smile, and I didn't shed a tear, because that's not what happened.
Yeah.
I question God every day. And I think when people got to realize that it's not just you're not just sad and down and out. There's a lot of anger that comes with it. Asking the question why, because that's the biggest question: is why do things happen, but we can't seem to find the answers. So yeah, I question God 100%. But like you said, I'm a believer, and I trusted that questioning God and my faith in God came down to me not finding the answer. It wasn't God's fault. That came down to me and how I was feeling at the time and stuff like that. So I'll be lying. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't question God, because I did.
Yeah.
But He's gotten me through it, and He was right. So are the people that have said keep trusting God, and I've done that. But yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one, I feel, because you get mixed responses with that, and there's obviously a lot of people who believe in different things and have stronger faith than others, and that's completely fine. And I'm happy for that. But there was that questioning my own faith.
I think something that I heard years ago is that we worship God not for who He fully is, but who we know Him to be. So, and I think the way that people respond in different situations when it comes to their faith purely depends on how they know God in that moment of their lives.
Yeah.
So for you, I think while you couldn't find the answers physically, it was how am I going to find it?
How am I going to find it? Yeah.
If I can't find it here, then I've got to ask here.
Yeah.
But no, it's completely natural. I just think if to end it off, if there's for anyone that's watching, that's struggling with their mental health, I think you've been absolutely courageous with sharing the things that you've had. But if there's anyone watching and they're struggling and they don't know how to address it, is there any piece of advice that you'd like to leave them with?
I think the important thing was, like I said in the beginning, just talking, finding that courage, finding that strength to talk to someone, because once two people start conversing, you start talking about things that you didn't even plan on speaking about. And one of those things could be your mental state and how you're going mentally. So yeah, just making sure that if you can, find the strength to talk to someone close to you, and if you're on the other side of that, like I said, make sure you're checking up on people and not just asking them a simple question. If you can, over a feed or whether it be in the car or something, just make sure that you get your point across that you are there for them, not just to answer questions, but to get real deep and kind of get an understanding of how you're really going through things in life. Because as people, we just see the smiles and the happiness and the laughs. We don't actually know what people are facing behind closed doors, and people could just see me and just look at me and go, oh, he's a rugby player, look at him, blah blah blah. And like I said, you don't know what people are going through. So that goes with thinking about what you say before you say it. Just being respectful. I think that's the big thing. Being respectful if you're on the other side of that, and if you're going through things, I encourage you to try and talk and be open to people understanding you and getting as much help as you can.
That's so cool. I think you've highlighted it. Like ultimately, when it comes to mental health, is about addressing it and coming forth with kindness.
Yep.
Because often we can completely be dismissive of people because we just look at them. Like if I looked at you, I'd be like, this is a rugby player, he's got everything going for you. But like you said, behind closed doors, like only you and God know the extent of what you're going, like what's going through your mind, right? But no, I think you absolutely are an inspiration to. I think I'm definitely inspired by your story about just being courageous and showing up even when it hurts, and being bold enough, like giving your profile to speak so openly about things that you've been through. So I know that I won't be the only person that's inspired by so thanks for talking with us today.
Oh, good. See you there.
That's so good. You killed it. That was real cool, man.